America once built faster than any nation on Earth. It connected a continent with railroads, built the Interstate Highway System, and transformed its cities in just a few decades. Today, that same country can spend billions of dollars building only a few miles of subway. What changed? Because the true strength of a nation isn't measured by what it can imagine. It's measured by what it can actually build. This is a red line. And today, we're uncovering why America forgot how to build. New York City is home to the most expensive stretch of railroad ever constructed in human history. When Phase 1 of the 2nd Avenue subway opened to the public, it delivered just 2 miles of track and 3 new stations. The final price tag was a staggering $4.5 billion. That works out to roughly $2.2 billion per mile. For context, Paris recently extended its Line 14 subway at a cost of roughly $400 million per mile. In Madrid, engineers completed an entire 25-mile subterranean network for less than the cost of a single mile of track under Manhattan. This isn't an anomaly isolated to the dense bedrock of the Northeast. It is a symptom of a systemic nationwide paralysis. The United States, the country that completed the Transcontinental Railroad in 6 years, constructed the Empire State Building in exactly 1 year and 45 days, and paved the Interstate Highway System, has completely forgotten how to build. When you look at the macroeconomics of modern American infrastructure, you are not looking at a problem of capital. The government spends hundreds of billions on public works, yet the output per dollar is astonishingly low. America is suffering from a severe case of infrastructure cost disease. Projects take decades to plan, cost triple their estimates, and deliver a fraction of the promised utility. So, how did the world's richest country become one of the slowest builders in a developed world? To understand the collapse of American infrastructure, we have to look past political grandstanding and examine the hidden regulatory mechanics. The story begins with a profound institutional shift in the 1970s. For decades, American public works were driven by a top-down, hyper-efficient, but often brutal methodology. Bureaucrats like Robert Moses could draw a line on a map and obliterate entire neighborhoods to build an expressway. The public backlash to this era of unchecked state power was immense. In response, lawmakers introduced a wave of environmental and community protection laws. The most consequential of these was the National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA, signed into law in 1970. NEPA requires federal agencies to assess the environmental effects of their proposed actions prior to making decisions. On paper, this is a perfectly rational policy. But here's the thing. NEPA did not create an agency with the power to approve or deny projects. Instead, it created a procedural requirement enforced through the courts. This seemingly minor legislative detail weaponized the American legal system against development. Because NEPA compliance is enforced via litigation, any citizen, local business, or rival political group can sue a project, claiming the environmental impact statement was insufficient. In the early 1970s, a standard environmental impact statement was a brief document, often less than 20 pages long, assembled in a matter of weeks. Today, the average statement is a sprawling, highly technical, defensive legal document. They frequently exceed 10,000 pages and take an average of 5 to 7 years to complete. This has birthed what political scientist Francis Fukuyama calls a vetocracy, a system where a massive array of decentralized actors all hold veto power over a project, but no single entity holds a power to push it forward. You can see this vetocracy paralyzing the California high-speed rail project. Originally pitched to voters in 2008 with a price tag of $33 billion, the system was supposed to connect Los Angeles to San Francisco by 2020. Today, the estimated cost has ballooned to over $128 billion, and a completion date has vanished into the distant future. The project has been sued by environmental groups, wealthy municipalities, and agricultural interests. Every lawsuit stops construction. Every delay adds millions in inflation and carrying costs. The regulatory mechanism designed to protect the public has essentially frozen the state's ability to act. But regulation is only half of the equation. The other half is a fundamental hollowing out of state capacity. In the mid-20th century, American government agencies employed massive armies of in-house engineers, architects, and project managers. The people designing the highways were public servants on a government payroll. Today, that internal expertise has been entirely outsourced. State Department of Transportation have slowly transformed from engineering powerhouses into hollow administrative shells. Their primary function is no longer to design infrastructure, but to manage contracts. When a modern American city wants to build a new transit line, it doesn't use its own engineers. It hires private consulting firms to conduct the feasibility study. Then, it hires different consultants to handle the environmental review. Then, it hires a third layer of project management consultants to oversee the construction companies. This creates a catastrophic misalignment of financial incentives. Private consulting firms are generally paid by the hour or as a percentage of the total project budget. They are not incentivized to deliver projects quickly or cheaply. In fact, a project delayed by 5 years of environmental lawsuits is a financial windfall for consultants hired to navigate that litigation. The American infrastructure sector has inadvertently created a massive, parasitic consulting economy that thrives on complexity, delay, and friction. And this complexity bleeds directly into the physical design of the infrastructure itself. Because agencies lack confident in-house engineering talent, they become overly reliant on bespoke, custom-built designs. In countries like Spain, France, or South Korea, nations that build rapid transit at a fraction of the American cost, infrastructure is treated as a standardized commodity. Stations are designed with identical dimensions. Tunnel boring machines are ordered to standard specifications. The architecture is utilitarian and infinitely repeatable. In the United States, every single project is treated as a unique, monumental work of art. Transit agencies hire boutique architectural firms to design custom glass canopies and unique layouts for every single station. This bespoke approach forces contractors to source custom materials and learn new construction methods for every single stop on a transit line. When you combine bespoke architecture with heavily unionized labor forces operating under fragmented local jurisdictions, the costs compound exponentially. Furthermore, the sheer density of American utilities creates a logistical nightmare. Underneath the streets of a city like Boston or New York lies a tangled, unmapped century-old web of water mains, fiber optic cables, and electrical conduits. In many European and Asian cities, utility companies are state-owned or heavily regulated, allowing the government to force them to relocate their pipes quickly to make way for a subway. In the United States, these utilities are largely private corporations. Transit agencies must negotiate with each individual utility company, paying exorbitant fees and waiting months or years for them to move their own equipment. When you synthesize all these factors, the weaponization of environmental laws, the vetocracy of decentralized power, the outsourcing of engineering expertise, the parasitic consulting economy, and the insistence on bespoke design, the resulting cost disease seems almost mathematically inevitable. America has not lost the physical technology to build. It has lost the institutional framework required to execute. The system is perfectly optimized to avoid risk, mitigate liability, and appease local stakeholders. But in optimizing for consensus, it has sacrificed progress. Fixing this requires a harsh, unsentimental dismantling of the current regulatory apparatus. The state must rebuild its internal engineering capacity to break its reliance on private consultants. Environmental laws must be reformed to limit endless, bad faith litigation. And crucially, political leaders must be willing to override local vetoes in the name of national macroeconomic growth. Until these systemic institutional failures are addressed, it will continue to operate at a fundamental disadvantage. America has not lost the technology to build. It has lost the institutional framework that makes building possible. Decades of regulation, litigation, outsourcing, and bureaucracy have created a system optimized to avoid risk, but not to deliver results. And in a world where infrastructure is becoming a measure of economic and geopolitical power that carries consequences far beyond delayed construction projects, the countries that build the fastest will shape the future. The countries that cannot will slowly fall behind. This is the Red Line, where geography, economics, and power collide. Subscribe to understand the hidden systems shaping our world.